Day in downtown Buffalo, the center of the universe here in Niagara Square. I just want to recognize a number of people that are here. First, Comptroller Kevin Hardwick, Legislator Lawrence Dupre, Legislator Taisha St. Jean Tard. You'll be hearing from them. From Journey's End, we have Pam Keffey, the CEO, Denise Phillips Behag, Director of Community Integration Services, Liz Callahan, the Director of Legal Services. From Jewish Family Services, we have Megan Perry, the Senior Director of Community Services. We also have representatives from New York State Senator Jeremy Zellner's team, as well as Assemblyman John Rivera's team. I also want to recognize Terry Connor from Connor's Law and Grace Karambisi from the Buffalo Immigrant Leadership Team. You'll be hearing from them as well as our government elected officials. Behind us here, etched in glass of the Robert H. Jackson Courthouse, is the text of the Constitution of the United States. The Fifth Amendment, part of the Bill of Rights, promises that nobody shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. We're here because tragically, that promise continues to be broken by the Trump administration's Department of Homeland Security and touched home here in Buffalo in February of this year. Nurul Amin Shah Alam, a refugee who followed the rules to come to America and who lived here with legal status, lost his life on a cold winter night just 14 months to the day after arriving with his family in search of the American dream. According to the Erie County Medical Examiner, Mr. Shah Alam's death has been classified as a homicide, a death resulting from the action or inaction of others. Mr. Shah Alam and his family came here from Burma, members of the Rohingya community, which has suffered years of persecution, war, and famine. They came here looking to build a new life for themselves in a country that protects their right to worship, that provides economic opportunity, and that welcomes them not just as refugees, but as our neighbors. But in February, that promise of opportunity and security was taken from Mr. Shah Alam when he was released from local custody and then wrongfully profiled and detained by DHS. Mr. Shah Alam spoke little to no English, was largely blind, had mobility issues, yet he was left by DHS personnel on the streets of Buffalo outside a closed Tim Hortons coffee shop without the warm clothing needed for a Western New York winter night after it was determined that he did indeed have legal status. According to DHS, this closed, dark, locked Tim Hortons was a safe, warm location for an individual with disabilities and no warm clothing or shoes. A total disaster. According to DHS, a man who didn't speak English and couldn't see told them that he wanted to go there. And according to DHS, their department followed protocol. Those are all lies. Mr. Shah Alam's family deserved to know his whereabouts. They should have had the opportunity to question. They should have never had to question his safety following federal government custody. Yet, under the Trump administration, we're being forced to reassert the basic values of compassion and kindness through law. Because immigrant families who sought refuge here are being forced to spend days frantically searching for their loved ones. That's why I'm here today to announce the introduction of the DHS Release Transparency Act, legislation that spells out in crystal clear language the duty of DHS to provide notification of families or other point of contact in advance of their loved one being released from federal custody. Right now, there's nothing in law that requires DHS to notify a point of contact in an impending release. My bill closes that gap and requires DHS to make families aware of the loved one's upcoming release prior to release from custody in order to ensure their safety. For individuals like Mr. Shah Alam, this legislation would mandate that DHS provide translation and interpretation services throughout their entire point of contact notification process. Nurul Amin Shah Alam should be alive and with his family today. They had planned for his release by cooking his favorite foods, and they were ready to begin making new memories and celebrating a new chapter in their lives. Instead, they found themselves burying their husband, their father, their friend. This death was completely avoidable, And while DHS continues to stonewall our demands for accountability, we won't stop fighting until justice is served. This legislation will save lives and help prevent future tragedies like what happened right here in Buffalo. To tell us more about the process that led to Mr. Shah Alam's death and why this legislation is so important, it's my honor to introduce a number of distinguished individuals from our community. I want to begin by introducing the Erie County Comptroller, Kevin Hardwick, who's joined us here today. Kevin, thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. You know, I'm sure in certain quarters in our community, this legislation being proposed by the Congressman will be viewed as anti-ICE. Let's stipulate. I don't think anyone disagrees that ICE should be controlling the border. But that's not exclusive, mutually exclusive from its other roles. You know, the Congressman mentioned one of our founding documents, the Constitution, the text of which he said is written on the walls behind us. There's another founding document, the Declaration of Independence, which talks about inalienable rights that we are endowed with by our Creator. And one of them is life, the others being liberty and the pursuit of happiness. And those were denied from Mr. Shah Alam and his family. So the legislation that the Congressman is talking about today is pretty common sense. And I don't know why anyone wouldn't agree with it. Yes, ICE should close the border. We should have control of our own borders. But this isn't about that. This is about a man who should have been alive, who was denied that inalienable right because of the lack of legislation like this. And I commend the Congressman for promoting this, and I think it should receive a bipartisan support, not only in Washington, but especially in this community. And I hope that Congressman Langworthy signs on to it also. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to hear from Legislator Taisha St. Jean Tard. Legislator, thanks so much.
Good morning, everyone. Government is supposed to protect people. That's common sense. That's why a lot of us do what we do. But one of the most basic responsibilities is when we see a system fail and we see our vulnerable people, our residents, we have to respond to these issues. We have to find solutions. Mr. Alam was dropped off by DHS at a closed coffee shop without notifying his family, legal counsel, or community contacts. And now Mr. Alam was found dead. That's on us. When this happens, we all have to ask, how did this happen? Whose fault is really this? And second of all, how can we fix the gap in the system? And that's what Congressman Kennedy is doing with his great leadership. He's fixing the gap. He's finding a solution. When you think about this Transparency Act, it creates a safeguard. It helps requiring family members or a lawyer or a sponsor or emergency contact to be notified before someone's released. To me, that's common sense. That shouldn't be a gap there. And this legislation, I agree with the comptroller, should be bipartisan, because our job as elected officials is to protect our residents. I think Congressman Kennedy is amazing. Everyone knows that. I think what he puts forward, it's always community driven. But he took action after this great loss. In our city, I know District 2, including myself, I'm standing behind him. And if I can do anything, even go into DC to help you push this, I will. Because we should never have to see this gap ever. And once again, this happened in Erie County. This happened with our own department in Erie County. For me, this is more important to make sure this act gets passed because I don't want to see this happen again. Thank you so much, Congressman.
Thank you, Legislator, very much. Next, we're going to hear from Legislator Lawrence Dupre. Legislator?
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. And I want to thank the Congressman again, Congressman Kennedy, for your leadership on this important issue and for bringing attention to a tragedy that should never have happened. The death of Mr. Alam exposed a critical gap in our immigration and detention systems. Simply put, Mr. Alam should be here today. Mr. Alam was lawfully present in the United States, yet when he was released from federal custody, neither his family nor his attorney were notified. Days later, he was found deceased. This was a preventable tragedy, and one that has left a lasting impact on our community. This new piece of legislation is a common sense response. It recognizes that communication can save lives. By requiring the Department of Homeland Security to make a good faith effort to notify a designation point of contact before releasing certain individuals from custody, this legislation creates a simple but meaningful safeguard for detainees and their loved ones. Just as important, this bill includes protections to ensure that contact information cannot be used for enforcement purposes and that language barriers do not prevent families from receiving critical information. While we cannot undo the loss suffered by Mr. Alam's family, we can honor his memory by taking action to ensure that no other family experiences a similar tragedy. I am proud to support efforts to strengthen transparency, protect vulnerable individuals, and make our systems more responsive and humane. Thank you. And thank you once again, Congressman Kennedy, for showing your leadership for our community and leading forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, legislator. Next, we're going to hear from the Buffalo Immigrant Leadership Team, Grace Karam-Bizi. Grace? Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. My name is Grace Karam-Bizi, and I'm the Executive Director of BUILT, the Buffalo Immigrant Leadership Team. I came to this country as a refugee, and as many of the different organizations that work with immigrant and refugee, we work very hard to make sure that all families that come here are safe. And in the case of Mr. Shah Alam, did not speak English, and he was released in a city he did not know, and in a language that he did not speak, with no one told. That is not paperwork failure. It is a systematic failure. That is how a person dies. What happened to him is not rare because he died. It is rare because we heard about it. And it is close to us, to our hometown, Buffalo. Every week, families in our communities are released from custody with no one notified. Wives wait for the phone call that never comes. Children sit in the classroom not knowing where their parents are. And when the notification do happen, they happen in languages in English, and the family do not speak English. A notification in a language a family cannot understand is not a notification at all. This bill is a basic act of human decency. A phone call in a language a family understands. To someone who loves them, that is what they are asking for. It should not be controversial. On behalf of the faith community and the immigrant families that BUILT represents, we are grateful to Congressman Kennedy is bringing this forward. We urge Congress to pass it. No family in the country should have to learn of their loved one the way the family of Mr. Shah Alam did. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your leadership. And finally, we're going to hear from Terry Connors from Connors Law. Mr. Connors is the attorney for Mr. Shah Alam's family. Terry.
From the moment that Congressman Kennedy learned of this tragedy, he and his office stepped up to reassure the family of Shah Alam that we were actually in a country, the land of the free and the home of the brave. He and Governor Hochul, with the help of Jewish Family Services and the Journey's End Refugee Service, showed the support that this community should show for someone who has fought through persecution to get to our country. I'll never forget the time I spent with Fatima, the wife of Shah Alam. When she looked at me and she said, "We came through persecution. We traveled through the horrors of Burma to get here. And my husband died in the road in the land of the free." Well, there's some legislation that you never know the outcome for years. You never can tell the impact. But this legislation makes an immediate impact. And I can tell you without any doubt whatsoever that if this legislation were in effect, Shah Alam would be alive today. His family waited outside the holding center for him to be released. They were there keeping vigil for hours, waiting for him to take him home. But instead, he was whisked away by Border Patrol through some back exit that no one even knew where he was, and left somewhere in Riverside, somewhere in an area where he had no access, as the objective medical examiner said, left in a situation where he could not extricate himself from. That's just wrong, and we'll be pursuing that further.
Thank you very much, Terry. Thank you very much to Terry Connors. Happy to take any questions.
Congressman, there are two sides to this transfer that happened. He was let go from the holding center, Border Patrol picked him up. Your bill obviously addresses the Border Patrol side of that. But how much blame, if any, do you think the Erie County Sheriff's Office holds in terms of they also didn't know?
Look, we just heard Terry Connors remind us of the details of this terrible tragedy. This is heartbreaking and heart-wrenching, and quite frankly, it's infuriating. It should be infuriating to every American. It should be infuriating to anyone with a heart for humanity. The way Mr. Shah Alam was treated was outrageous, it was inhumane, it was un-American, and it was wrong. And the fact of the matter is, this legislation will address from a very specific legal requirement the Department of Homeland Security to put in place a safeguard to ensure the well-being of individuals who are being released from their custody. The federal government has an obligation to ensure the safety and well-being of every individual in their custody. They especially have an obligation to ensure the safety and well-being of those in their custody that are in their custody wrongfully. In this case, Mr. Shah Alam, who was here legally, who fought through famine and oppression to come here with his family to seek a better life. In 14 years to the day, he came into this great country legally. He was found dead because of a lack of notification requirement in the system. So what we're doing here today specifically focuses on the introduction of a Transparency Act for notification to ensure loved ones of individuals that are taken into custody by DHS, the attorneys, or other individuals that are close to a detainee are notified when that detainee is ultimately released back into the community.
Given the current political landscape, I don't know if there's any, maybe you feel differently, I don't know if there's a chance of this passing this week or this session. Is this something you are going to stay on until, say, 2029 when Democrats have control of the branches again?
Yeah. I want this passed today. I want this passed this week. I want this passed as soon as humanly possible. Because, as we've heard, if this legislation were in place, Mr. Shah Alam would be alive today, period. But the fact of the matter is, I have lost any faith in the Department of Homeland Security. Formerly under Kristi Noem, who resigned in disgrace, and now under Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen, who, by the way, will be appearing before the Department of Homeland, the Committee of Homeland Security that I sit on tomorrow. And I expect to bring Mr. Shah Alam's case up to him. And the lack of responsiveness, and the lack of humanity, and the lack of attention and follow-up investigation that the Department of Homeland Security has demonstrated when we have seen an individual in their custody released being ruled a homicide in our community. It is a demonstration that they don't care. On top of the fact that we've seen other people being killed, U.S. citizens being killed in the streets of America. This is wrong. They lack any credibility. And so my hope remains that we'll pass this legislation. I would love to get it passed in a bipartisan fashion, but my belief that that will happen and my confidence that that will happen, given the lack of credibility in the Department of Homeland Security and the Trump administration across the board, is at an all-time low. But we will press on, we will fight on, and my expectation is we will ultimately pass this into law in the United States.
You mentioned Congressman Langworthy. Do you see him signing onto this? Have you reached out to him at all?
We're introducing this today, and we're going to be reaching out to all my colleagues on both sides of the aisle for their support.
And is there anything written in the legislation that says what to do if they can't reach family, if families unable to be reached?
Yeah, what this legislation does is two things. One, it offers a detainee the ability to put in place someone to be notified, whether that's a family member or an attorney or another loved one or a friend, when in fact they are released. But it doesn't obligate that. A detainee may say, offer that they would rather not have someone notified and be on there. That is their prerogative. That being said, once that individual is to be notified, and we have an individual's name to be notified, the Department of Homeland Security, be it CBP, be it ICE, they then are required to make a good faith effort, at least 2 attempts to contact that family member or loved one upon release.
What happens if they can't contact?
They have to keep in place a record of their good faith attempt to make that contact.
What's good faith? 2 calls, 3 calls?
What we have here is 2 calls, but again, this is all about humanity. This is about making an effort, a good faith effort, to a point of contact established upon screening and an individual being detained by our federal government to be contacted. And that is all written into the law and ultimately will be required to be kept notification of.
Talk about your level of lack of faith in DHS. Could you maybe mention just your level of concern that this might happen again?
Yeah, I think everyone should be concerned that this could happen again. It happened right here in the city of Buffalo, the city of good neighbors. And while Mr. Shah Alam passed away in the streets of Buffalo alone, 5 days after he was dropped off in a cold, dark parking lot with no clothes for the inclement weather in the middle of winter in Buffalo, because there was no process of notification in place while the family was waiting for him and his lawyer was looking for him. This is just one instance where we know of many other instances where people have been just dropped off or walked out the door because they were detained wrongfully, and in fact, there's no system in place to notify a family member. So whether that's dropping them off in a cold, dark parking lot to a closed coffee shop in the middle of winter on Niagara Street, 5 miles away from where a dead man is found, or whether that's the bus station in downtown Buffalo because it's a safe, warm place. I mean, the interpretation of a safe, warm place is very far-fetched, especially when they're saying a cold, dark parking lot of a closed coffee shop is a safe, warm place. That doesn't cut it.
Does Mr. Connors perhaps have any details of lawsuits that may be filed soon?
So we are presently in the fact-gathering segment of litigation. We have filed substantial Freedom of Information law requests to try to get all of the detail. Understandably, we are not getting the kind of cooperation that we want, but we'll pursue it. We're persistent, but we're not going to do anything until we gather all of the facts and find out exactly what transpired that day.
Are you thinking about a federal civil rights suit or a suit against the county, the sheriff's office?
We haven't ruled out anything. It'll be based upon the legal research that we do.
Congressman,
Yeah.
you recently inspected or toured the Border Patrol station in the town of Tonawanda.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what you saw there, if you interacted with any
Yeah. On May 8th, let me back up for a minute. On March 24th, I sent a letter to Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen specifically asking detailed questions about the Nurul Amin Shah Alam incident here in Buffalo. We're yet to hear back. That is a total disgrace. It's outrageous. And the people of our community and the people of this great country deserve better than the Department of Homeland Security and the Secretary and the Trump administration turning a blind eye to a homicide to which the last individuals in contact with Mr. Shah Alam was the federal government. We deserve better. On May 8th, I made an unannounced visit to the Buffalo station where it's told Mr. Shah Alam was held before he was released. That particular day, there were no detainees. But I went through, toured it, spoke to the leader there, had follow-up questions that I've sent along to the administration about my visit there, about questions that were not answered there that day, and we're still, again, awaiting a return correspondence.
Do you believe that is an appropriate place to hold detainees?
No, that is not an appropriate place to hold detainees. Detainees should move through there within 72 hours. They are required to move through there within 72 hours. I'm told typically they do, but not always. And so there are major issues that we have questions about, not only in that facility, but facilities all across the country, as how detainees are being held, how long they're being held, how they're being treated. Are they being treated in a humane way that is the basis for who we are as Americans? And we'll hear, I'm sure, many of these questions being asked to the Secretary Mullen tomorrow. All right, appreciate you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for being here.